Hi everyone, welcome to update number 2 for my Penless eyeshadows project. If you're not familiar with this project, it was created by Alexi a few years ago, and ever since then it changed quite a lot. Different people do it differently and I'm no exception. So the way that I structure my version of this project is I randomly select 5 eyeshadows out of my whole collection, and one of those shades comes from a focus palette, and my goal is to hit pan on them no matter what, basically, unless it's the end of the year, and that's when I wrap up the project. So yeah, I'm very excited to film this update because I'm kind of getting tired of my current color story. So we have a few rollouts, and that means I will be able to update my color story, which I'm looking forward to. So let's just get into it. But as always, before I get into the project itself, I wanted to remind you again that the war in Ukraine is still happening. So if you would like to help, I will list a few organizations down below that accept donations. So if you're comfortable with donating, or if you have the funds, I have the resources down in the description box. If you do end up donating, thank you so much. It means the world. I just want this whole thing to be over and for people not to suffer. So yeah, I don't know what else to say, so let's just get into the eyeshadows. Okay, so the first eyeshadow I'm going to talk about is the one that's been here from the intro, and it's also the one that comes from my focus palette, which is the same focus palette I had last year, and it is Meet Menu by The Balm. I only have one shade left to hit pan on, so if you're sick of this palette, it's not staying here for too long. But the shade that I've been trying to hit pan on for the past 2 months is Matte Rosin, and I've used Matte Rosin 20 times in total, and here is what it's looking like today. I hope you can see there's a pretty significant dip in the shade, so I know that I'm very close to pan, but unfortunately I haven't hit it just yet. Here is what the shadow looks like swatched out. As you can see, it's a nice neutral mid-tone brown. I'm actually wearing it today on my eyes. Duh. So it's just everywhere, like on my lid and on my lower lash line. And that's one of the ways that I've been using it. And I also really been... So the reason why I've used it 20 times and haven't hit pan on it yet, although usually I'm able to hit pan on shades like that in this palette in less than 20 uses, is because I've been using it in pretty light quantities. I don't know. So one way that I've been using it is like with a light shade that is coming up on my lid, and like just the tiniest amount of it in my crease and lower lash line. And I've been doing that look for a good amount of time, and recently I really got into using it with like a very light base color. I've been using this About Face Fluid Matte Eye Paint, which I think I might have mentioned before. It's the shade Smell Before Rain, and it's like a super light neutral. So I've been just putting that as like my eyeshadow base and smudging this shade, or like blending it out in kind of like a winged out shape, and I've been really enjoying that look. So both those ways of using the shade don't really use that much compared to like what I'm wearing today. So yeah, that's that. And also, if you're wondering why my palette looks different, I've used up the shade this past month, which is pretty exciting. But it also means that I have less pans in my collection. But never mind, that's fine with me. But yeah, I used up the shade Matte Sing, and I repressed a different shadow from a different palette here, which I'm not going to try to hit pan on it because one, it's not a shade that is from this palette originally, and also before I repressed it here, it already had a pan in it, so I don't see point in hitting pan on it. So yeah, all that to say, this palette is going to stay for hopefully just one more month, and I'm pretty positive I'll be able to hit pan on it next month, so stay tuned. But let's just move on to the next shade before I talk even more. Alright, so the next shade I'm going to talk about, which is the last one that has been in this, the last one remaining from the intro, let's say it like that, and it comes from this palette, which is Elfin Jikisa to the Rescue, and the shade that I have from this palette is called Pepper. I used it a total of 10 times, and here's what it's looking like today. Let me just cover the mirror before I show you it as well as I can. But here is what Pepper is looking like today. As I hope you can see, there is a pan in it, which is amazing. I'm very happy about that. Here's what this shadow looks like swatched out. It's a very pretty kind of mid-toned, maybe not mid-toned, it's like in between mid-toned and deep, whatever you would call that tone. Kind of warm toned red. I don't know why I'm like struggling with this description, but I really like this color, and I'm very happy to have pan in it finally. I was worried that it will take me far longer than it did to hit pan in it because Rebecca Morgan was panning this exact shade last year, I think, and I remember her struggling with it, so I was like, oh, it will be one of those shades, but surprisingly I needed just 10 uses to hit pan on it, which is pretty amazing. So yeah, this palette is going to be replaced by something new, so yeah, I don't know what else to say about the shades, so let's just move on. Okay, so the next three shades I'm going to talk about are all last month's roll-ins, and the first one comes from this palette, which is At First Sight by Colourpop and Raw Beauty Christie. The shade that I've rolled in from this palette is called Amanita, and I've used it 7 times, and here is what it's looking like today. Nothing impressive going on here, and it honestly looks like I've used it once or twice. So yeah, kind of disappointing, but that's how it is with hard pressed shades that are also pigmented or deep. Here's what this shadow looks like swatched out. As you can see, it's like a very nice, what would you call it? Berry color? Plum? I don't know. Aubergine? Yeah, it's a very pretty color. But it is very... I don't know how to explain it. Like, it's the kind of color that is so bright and impactful that you might get sick of it pretty fast. So that's what happened with me. So, and I think I'm stuck with it for a while. So I gotta, I don't know, get over it. I don't know what I'm talking about, but yeah, not great progress in this one. But I'm pretty glad to have this palette out because, as I mentioned in my last update, it's one that I don't use that much. So I'm glad to have it out, and I've actually been using it quite a lot, especially the black shade, because it's the only black shadow that I currently have out with among all the palettes that I have in this project. So yeah, as you can imagine, this is staying, so let's just move on to the last two shades. So the fourth shadow I'm going to be talking about comes from this palette, which is Too Faced Pumpkin Spice. The shade that I have from this palette is called Want a Piece of Me, and I used it a total of 8 times this month. And here is what it's... hold on. Here's what it's looking like today. So as you can see, there's no pan in it, but it does have a pretty good dip, I think. So I'm pretty hopeful that maybe next update we will have pan in it. Here's what it looks like swatched out. It's a very pretty kind of taupey lavender. I do quite like this color, but the formula of this shade isn't the best. It's very thin if you don't use like a glitter glue with it, which I usually do, so it's not like the biggest issue for me personally. But what I don't like about it the most is the fact that it's very crumbly, and yeah, it's just kind of difficult to use sometimes. So yeah, that's that. But I have been enjoying using it because I really like these kind of cool toned shadows, neutrals. So it's been a pleasure to have it out, and this palette too, because it's another one that I don't reach for that much. So yeah, since I don't have pan in it, it will be staying for 1 more month or maybe more. I hope not. But yeah, let's just talk about our last shade, and then we will do some rolling in, which I'm very much looking forward to. And the last shade that I've been working on for the month of February comes from another ColourPop, what did I say it like that? ColourPop, another ColourPop palette, and this time it's their Sailor Moon collaboration, which is called the Pretty Guardian palette. And the shade that I have from this palette is called Shining Moon, and it is the first shade in this palette. I used it 24 times in total, and here is what it's looking like today. I hope you can see there is a pan in it, which I guess isn't surprising for it being such an basic shade. But yeah, we have another rollout. Very exciting. So this is the shade that I was saying I was using together with Matte Rosin. Is that what it's called? Yeah. So I would wear this a lot all over my lid, and I would also do like eyeliner, so kind of like a vintage inspired makeup. It's a very broad term, but you know what I mean. So yeah, I actually quite enjoy using it in that capacity, so it's kind of a shame that I have to roll it out, but also I'm very glad to hopefully roll in something more exciting in its place. And by the way, here's what it looks like. It's just kind of a very peachy, wait, can you see? A very peachy light matte. It's a sequence shadow actually, and it has kind of like white, I mean like silver and pink sparkles in it, but you can barely see them when you actually put it on, even if you like press it on, unless you have like a very wet base. I don't know, the ones that I use don't really don't make those little sparkles adhere to the eye that well, so they usually just disappear. But I kind of like that little twinkle of something, so yeah. Okay, I don't know, I'm like blinking out. We're going to move on to the rolling in new shades part of the video, and we will be replacing these two palettes. So let's just get into it. Okay, so I'm back with Pretty Random app, our good old friend. Ignore this number, I accidentally shook my phone and it came up, so yeah, so my minimum is 1 and my maximum is 13, 18. So let's randomize our two new shades. So the first one is going to be, that's the old one. Okay, 1008. And the next one, 1079. Okay, so we have shades closer to the latter, or actually kind of like the middle of my spreadsheet. So let me just go look at what they are, and hopefully those are the shades that don't have any pen in them, because if they do, I will be rolling again for a new shade. So yeah, let me just go fetch those palettes and shades, and I'll be back to share them with you. Alright y'all, I'm back with my two new palettes, and they are a pretty fun pair. So let me just show you them. So the first palette that I rolled in, or the first shade rather, is number 1008, and it corresponds to a shade from this palette, which is Red Dragon palette by Odin's Eye and Judy, and the shade from this palette that I rolled in is called Serene. I don't know what it is, but if I had to guess, I'd say it's kind of a reddish shade, but I might be wrong. Or actually, maybe it's one of the like fun shimmers. Either one of those, so let's just see. Oh, okay. My first guess was the one that is, the one that was closer. And so this is what Serene looks like. I guess it's kind of like a, what would you call that? Like a salmon matte, maybe? I have never used it. And there are a lot of shades in this palette that I have never used, which is embarrassing because this palette, I have had this palette for a while. So it's great that it rolled in. So yeah, that is Serene once again. So we kind of replaced one orangey reddy type of matte with another one, which I'm not really mad at. So that is our first roll-in, and the second one, talking about one thing replacing the other, we have another ColourPop palette, and this one to replace this ColourPop palette. Another franchise or like cartoon collab, surprisingly, but this is ColourPop and Powerpuff Girls palette. Does it have any special name? I don't think so. I guess that's it. So the shade that I have rolled in from this palette is called Super Friends, and it was under number 1079. I'm not sure what it is, but I think it might be either a blue or a green matte. So let's see. Where is it? Oh, okay. So as you can see, this shade already has a pretty substantial pan in it. So yeah, I guess we have to roll in a different shade. I didn't expect that because usually this is the first time ever I rolled in a shade that already has pen in it, so I guess we will need to roll in a different shadow. Oh, I should have checked my spreadsheet. Yeah, sorry about that. So let's just do another rolling in. So instead of that 1079 shade, we will have 306. Okay. Hopefully that one isn't panned already. So yeah, I'm gonna grab that shade and show you it, and hopefully I won't have to re-roll again. Okay, yeah. Okay, I'm back with our new shade, and this time I'm for sure confident that it doesn't have a pan in it because it's a palette that has never been in this project, and I don't remember hitting pan on any of its shadows. And it is this palette, which is Tito Cosmetics Athena, and the shade from this palette I have rolled in is under the number 11. This palette doesn't have any names, so they're all just numbers. I have no idea what it is because it's another one of those palettes that I don't use that much. So let's just see number 11. Okay, it's another brown. Yay! I think it's a shade that is lighter than matte rosin, so, and also I feel like it's more like a mustard, so it's not the same thing, but not the most exciting one, but I think it won't be difficult to hit pan on it. So yeah, let me just swatch out all of the, all of the shades that I have, our new color story, and I'll be back to show you it, obviously. Okay, so here is what our March color story is going to look like. It's pretty interesting. It's like pretty much all neutrals, but they're all different tones of neutral. So yeah, it's interesting. So let me just remind you what each shade is again. So at the top here we have Matte Rosin from Meet Menu by The Bum. Then we have Amanita from Raw Beauty Christie and Colourpop for at Forest Side palette. And then here we have Want a Piece of Me from Too Faced Pumpkin Spice palette. Then right under it is Serene from what's it called? The Red Dragon palette from Odin's Eye and Judy. And the last shade here is Dito Cosmetics Athena Shadow in under the number of 11. So yeah, here's what the two color stories look like together, the old one and the new one. They don't look that different, honestly. Yeah. But I'm still pretty happy that I have a slightly different color story to work on. So yeah, I guess now I will move on to talking about my goals, which includes goals for the next month and goals for the year. So let me just do my calculations real quick and I'll be back to talk about that. Okay, so I'll start with my long-term goals, which is my yearly goals basically, and then I'll talk about my goals for the next month. So if you remember, my goal for this year is to have 100 pens in my whole collection, and if I counted everything right, I currently have 67 pens, which means we have 33 more to hit, which is a lot, but hopefully I'll be able to do that. So as you've seen, I have used up one shade this month and hit 2, but because I used up that one, it kind of is like as if I hit just 1. But yeah, that's that. And when it comes to my goals for the next month, I would like to finally hit pan on this shade Matte Rosin, because it's been in this project for a while now and I want to be done with it, and I want to roll in our new focus palette. So yes, and I also foresee myself hitting pan on a piece of me. So yes, hopefully that will happen, and maybe even I'll get to hit pan on more than 2 shades, but I don't know, we'll see. I don't know. So yeah, I guess that is it. So let's just wrap up this video. So that is it for today's update. Thank you so much for watching. Oh, here's one last look at the color story. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. It's not too different, but I'm glad to have something new, and I feel like it kind of gives you springy vibes with these like woodsy colors and some like brights. I don't know. Do you think this is like March vibes? Let me know. But yeah, again, thank you so much for being here. I hope you're doing well, and hopefully I'll see you in my next video. But other than that, take care. Bye.